Okay, today we are going to talk about Paris, the whole map. We're going to talk about how the map usually is played. I'm going to talk about some things that I recommend doing and some things that I recommend watching out for on this map, focusing largely on the defender's perspective because they are usually the team that is trying to do something more specific. The attackers typically have a little bit more freedom in what they're trying to accomplish. So, we're going to start with defending the first checkpoint, the logical place to start in a 2CP map. So Paris. Paris is one of your classic bunker comp maps because it's got one of the most severe choke points in the game, right? There's not many ways to circumnavigate this alleyway right here. If you can fly, or you've got vertical movement, you know, you can go over this way. But then you come over and you're like, well, now what? It's not exact, and the defending team can still see you, like, the whole time you're doing it, so it's not exactly great, and not many heroes can get over that way to begin with. So I do recommend running a bunker comp on this map, which I'm sure will come as a great surprise to everyone, because how many times have you come around this corner and just gone, oh god, not again. It's one of those maps. So I do recommend just sitting with the bunker comp right here and trying not to let the enemy team to get through. Now, I do want to say, I don't think you should hard commit to a bunker comp. Like, I don't think you should go Bastion Torbjorn as, like, your 2 DPS, right? You should go with whatever you're putting behind the bunker is the main thing. The Bastion, the Torbjorn, the Soldier, if you're feeling a little boring, you know, whatever. But then the other DPS should be, like, a McCree or a May, because inevitably there's going to be a flanker, right? There's going to be a Sombra, Hammond's gonna fly by, something's gonna happen. And you don't want to have the whole bunker move over here. Because as soon as the bunker has to move, that's when people start getting through the choke point, and that's when it all falls apart. So you want a DPS, or even just like the off tank can deal with it if it's like Roadhog or something like that. You want somebody on your team that can go and deal with the person that goes to flank the point. Because you don't want the whole bunker to move. You want the main bunker to stay here, and then you assign the man to go and deal with the point behind you when it happens. You know, good luck getting that in just, like, random ladder games, but that's the ideal circumstance. It's just that, like, one person, maybe two, goes to deal with it, so the bunker doesn't have to actually move. Now, here's the thing to watch out for on this map, because this is one of the most common maps I've found where the attacking team is gonna run Symmetra. And if you're just sat here, waiting for them to show up, sometimes you're gonna be like, where are the bad men? Oh, fuck. And then they're already contesting the point behind you, right? So you've got to be watching, because the attacking team, they like to go Symmetra, they like to go right, and they like to teleport from there to here. And then they've already circumnavigated the choke point. So you've got to be watching for that. Pretty much. And then as soon as it starts happening, you gotta pick up a move and get ready to deal with that situation. Either, like, come over here and fight them head on, or be more willing to just, like, back up a little bit, maybe come around here and start playing from this angle, though I personally really hate sitting back here. We'll come to that in a moment. But that's, like, the main thing to watch for. The other thing to watch for, Sombra, because, oh, this is a pretty appealing doorway for Sombra over here. Oh, look, there's even a health kit right there for her to work with. Isn't that nice? So, pretty common, because the bunker's gonna be sat here, shield's gonna be sat here, you know, your man's gonna be sat here. So Sombra comes around the corner and goes, oh, sick, and then hacks you and harasses you like that. So you've also got to be watching this way. Those are, like, the two main things that are gonna get you. Sometimes the enemy team tries to, like, rush around this way, but, like, extremely rare circumstance. And if that's the case, just, like, come a little bit more over here and you can see them, like, the whole time, because they've got to go all the fuck way around there, which isn't super nice for them. So, you know, sometimes you'll see that, but it's pretty rare and not really a great way to go, so don't worry about it too much. I do recommend having the second DPS be May, just because this is one of the sickest choke points to put a wall on, you know? Absolute classic. They're like, alright, let's poke forward a little bit, and then, oh fuck, you put the wall right there, or like, oh shit, now we gotta come, like, round here, fuck, this sucks, or you put it, they walk through here, oh fuck, now we gotta go around this way. Either way, you've walled the man off, and he's been exposed to the bunker, so he's pretty fucking dead. If they manage to get round here, wall them off right here, you know, harass, then, you know, if somebody tries to push up here onto you, which is something the attacking team will sometimes do, just like rush around this corner and try to push up on you, well, Mei will shut that one down real quick as well. And Mei, just generally really good for 2 CP, because like, ooh, look at this big open space with no cover on it. Sure would be a shame if there was a blizzard right here, wouldn't it? So, I do recommend having a Mei as the second DPS. It's very nice for this map. So, now, if the enemy team manages to push you off of here, then you're gonna inevitably get pushed back here, because there's really nowhere else to stand. Most people like to sit, like, here with the bunker after that. I do not like sitting here with the bunker, because this is, like, a really depressing line of sight, isn't it? Like, you can't really see very much. And now you've got to worry about this, and you've got to worry about this. There is a large health kit here, so that's nice, but suddenly there's a lot of ways for the bad men to get behind you. And if you're like here, you can't really see, because they can just go around that way, and then they're up here before you've had a chance to see them. So I don't like sitting over here. I recommend sitting over here instead. Also just find it's a little bit harder to get knocked off the map over here, because, oh, people like, oh shit, oh fuck, oh god, oh there's nowhere else to go, oh fuck. It's a little bit harder for that to happen over here, but I mean, only marginally because this wall's here, basically. I do recommend sitting over here. This is just a nicer line of sight, basically. And you can't really get snuck up on because you can see that route, so you can see them the whole time, pretty much. Well, you can't see them if they go, like, all the way around there, then they'll be in this doorway, but either way, they've still got to cross the whole point to get to you. So I do recommend moving back over here if you get pushed off the center point. Now, but I recommend sitting over here, but just bear in mind, if the enemy team is all going that way, don't sit over here. Sit over here instead. This is just something you can take into any map, but particularly the 2 CP maps, which whenever they're attacking the point, whichever side they're pushing through, you go stand on the opposite side of the map, of the point, because if they go that way, well, they come through there, they've got to come all the way across. If they go over that way, they've got to come all the way across. You've just put more space between you and them. This is true of, like, all 2 CP maps. Volskaya, or Anubis, easier example, you're defending, second checkpoint. If they go through the caves on the right, you go stand on the left of the point. If they push up through the left, you go stand on the right side of the point. You just put as much space between them and you as possible, right? So that carries true everywhere. I recommend sitting over here, but if they do go that way, come sit over here instead. Because if you sit over here, well, they're going to come up around the backside over here and drop down right on top of you, and you won't be very happy about it. So bear that in mind. I have seen a variant where the defending team will completely abandon this spot and come sit over here instead, which I'm not as fond of, but I recognize the advantage to it, which is just that it's harder to get to you initially. Because with standing over here, you're a lot closer to the bad men. And if the bad men go through this way, this is a bit of an annoying situation to deal with. So if you're sat over here, it can't really happen to you, because there is no real close way to you except through over here. But, like, they still gotta go all that way around, right? So, and if they're divers, they've got to come, like, all the way up there to get to you and, like, get into jump up at you, stuff like that. So, like, it's safer, but it's also much less ambitious, because you can't really hold the choke point from up here as well, because, like, it's all the fuck way over there, dude, right? Like, you can't really hold it as well. But it is a lot safer. I prefer sitting over here just because sometimes they just don't know what to do and they never get through this choke point and you don't even lose the first tick, right? Like, sometimes that happens. So I do recommend this spot, but this spot, I've seen people do it. It is safer. It's just less ambitious. It does give you a pretty nice line of sight, and if they go all that way around, like, you can see the whole point. So, like, if you got, like, the Bastion bunker up here, you'll probably not have to jump down to fight them, because you can just kill them from up here. Also, if you've got long-range hit scan, DPS, or just snipers, this is pretty much the best place you can stand. This is like the widest line of sight you're given. You can use this doorway as cover, you know, you can see anybody coming to you. It's pretty hard to get flanked from up here unless there's a Somber, as long as you're paying attention. So if you're playing like Widow, Ashe, Hanzo, Soldier, anything like that, this is pretty much your best bet as far as it goes. But, you know, I still just recommend sitting over here with the bunker. That's what I recommend doing for the first checkpoint. So let's go talk about the second checkpoint. So I do not recommend bunker for the second checkpoint, just because this choke point, nowhere near as good, because there's so many ways to circumnavigate it. Because if you're running the bunker, you've pretty much got to sit here. And the thing is with that, there's so many ways in, dude. And you can't really see from up here, right? Like, all of these archways make it kind of annoying. Like, if they come, like, that way through, you barely see them at all, dog. And then they're, like, up here before you know what the fuck. So there's too many options for I find the bunker to work really well here. I find the teams that are a little bit easier to move around do better on this point. You also can't even tell from up here, like, which way they're going, unless they're coming straight up the middle, which is not exactly recommended. Because you can't see out here, there's a whole fucking thing in front of the doorway. So they can go either way, and you don't know until they're already going that way. So I recommend teams that are a little bit easier to move around on this map. You might decide to run Reinhardt over Orisa here, just because Reinhardt's a little bit more free in terms of moving around, because his shield isn't dictated by a cooldown, so he's a little bit easier to move around. Basically, you've got to be watching. Like, I recommend sitting over here as, like, your default position, and just watching this doorway as much as you can, because this is pretty much the best high ground look on the point you get. You can watch if they're coming through here, you can watch this doorway really easily, and if they go that way, which I find personally is the more common way the attackers go, your mileage may vary, they have to come the entire way across the point to get to you, so I recommend this as your default position. Or maybe back here, but you can't watch that corner very well at all. Like, I see bunkers sit down here all the time, but you just can't watch that doorway from this position. So you've got to have somebody, like, watching that way instead. Because if you're the bunker, and the first you know that they're coming is they're in this doorway, you might already be dead before you know what the fuck. So you've got to be really careful if you sit over here. This is what I like as the default position. Best angle, can watch the doorway, no problem, easy peasy. But you've got, if they start coming this way, well, now it's time to come sit over here. Because then they've got to come across the whole point to get to you. You just, like, tuck in this corner, and you feel nice and safe. It's not really very safe, but you feel nice and safe. I have seen people that like to just sit over here as their default position, and you can watch pretty well from over here, because you can watch this doorway. You've got a little bit more advanced notice than you would have over there if you're watching over here closely. But this angle is just not as good as the one over there, so I don't like it as much as the default position. But if you know they're coming that way, for one reason or another, this is like the best place you can sit, pretty much. I know a lot of long-range DPS like to sit up here. You know, you feel nice and important, like you're the one, like you're the king proceeding over the court, you know, you feel nice and good about it, but the thing is, there's not very much cover up here, is there? Like, you can use the doorway, but then your field of view is severely restricted. It's a very exposed position, and you can get approached from so many ways, dude. They can rush up at you if they're a dive comp, they can go left, they can go right. Reaper can, like, teleport through that way and get behind, just, like, crouch walk up to you, and then, hey, he's on you before you know what the fuck. I don't really like sitting up here. If, like, your Orisa is gonna sit up here with you, you can get some mileage out of it, but the problem with sitting up here with an Orisa, or a Reinhardt, is that they can shoot your shield from so far away. They can be all the way over there and harassing your shield, like, well outside of your range, unless you've got snipers back here, so I find it tends to not work out so well. But, you know, a lot of people like to stand up here, but I don't recommend it. This is what I recommend as your default position. So I don't recommend running bunker. I find you need a team that can react more quickly to things that are happening than bunker can. Now, if you're pretty coordinated, a bunker's no problem, because you can have somebody just watching the sides, and then you know way in advance if you have to move or not. But if you're just playing on ladder, which is the perspective I assume you're playing from, I don't recommend running bunker. I recommend a more mobile team than that. A long-range hit scan, or just a long-range DPS will get some mileage on this map, because you have got some good sight lines, regardless of route they take, because, I mean, you can sit up here, If they're going left, you can see them coming from real far away. You can harass the whole point, you know. If they go the other way, this is a pretty sick line of sight as well. You can overlook the whole point. You've got this cover to work with, you know. You can fall back behind this if you really have to. Come around here, you know. So I find the long-range DPS will get mileage. Mei is still good for this point. Mei is still good on, like, 2 CP maps, man. This point's not as exposed as the first one, because there's the statue in the middle, but this isn't exactly incredible cover, is it? So Mei still gets work done. There's still places you can wall people off. You can wall them off coming that way. You can wall them off over here. You can wall them off even if they come through one of the archways. So I find Mei still does work on this map. Mei just generally being pretty good for 2 CP maps. I do prefer Reinhardt just because he can move around a little bit more freely as a main tank can compared to Orisa. Otherwise, you know, dive tanks. I don't really like Orisa for this point that much. I find she has to commit to one location a little bit too much. I've played Orisa on this map and it feels really bad to put your shield down here and then figure out they're going that way, you know? I like Reinhardt just having more ability to move around for this checkpoint. But, you know, there's not really, like, a standard place to stand. You've got to be a little bit more willing to react on this map just because of the breadth of options the attackers have. This is also why, personally, I find that the second checkpoint on Paris is the easiest checkpoint to capture as far as 2 CP maps go in general. Just because the attackers have a lot of options, there's no, like, super hard choke point to work with. And there isn't, like, a fantastic defender spot. You know, like, if they're going left, this is pretty much, like, the best spot you get. If they're going right, this is the best spot you can get. But even then, you still have to be watching your side a lot, because there's still ways you can get snuck up on, like, most of them are going over here, well, they might still have a flanker that goes this way. So you've got to be willing to react, and you've got to be watching for where they're coming from. This, I find, is the checkpoint, probably the checkpoint most in the game that requires you to be paying attention to the attacking team and where they're going. Because I've seen so many people just, like, sit up here, just looking straight ahead, just not paying attention to the sides, and then the enemy team's just on them before they know what the fuck. So that's pretty much, like, what I recommend doing for this checkpoint, you know? Just, like, watching and then rotating to the other side of the point as quickly as possible. Get a Mei, get a team that can move around a little bit more easily than a bunker comp. Though, I don't really think that there's, like, necessarily a better, a particularly strong comp on this map personally, or this checkpoint personally, but I don't recommend bunker. I find it's too slow to react to the attacking team. So there you go. So let's go talk about the attacking team now. This being an extremely fun map to attack. So I do strongly advise just coming out of the gate with a Symmetra, dude. Like, it's so much easier than having to come around. Then so many times you come around this way and you just go, oh, fuck me. And the point where Symmetra is strongest on this map is right at the start. I recommend come out the gate, go with the Symmetra, come around this way. They don't know what the fuck unless they're watching through this angle, which they probably aren't. You come around here, you just teleport past, you circumnavigate it all. Now, it's possible they will be running a team where you don't need to do this, but I think it's best to do it just as an insurance policy, because it will be most effective on the first push, and if it turns out they're running a team that can react to your Symmetra a little bit better, whatever, you lost the first push, you can react after that, but the Symmetra on the first push, I think, is really recommended, just because it's so likely to be a bunker comp, and it's just the easiest way. Because if you have to go through this fucking Death Star trench run, it's the worst feeling in the world. So that's what I recommend. You could also do a Symmetra, like, over there as well, though that's not, like, anywhere near as good as just doing it that way. And then once you get over here, you got, like, 2 options. You can try and bum rush the point and just capture it, forcing them to come onto the point to contest you, or rush up here and start fighting them before they can react to you. It's kind of whichever one you prefer, but I'm more of the mind where I prefer rushing the point, because then the bunker, like, you make them have to come to you at that point, because then you're on the point, you're contesting it, you're capturing it, they have to come over here to contest you, and that's not what a bunker comp wants to do, you know? If they're not running a bunker comp, then it's still, then at that point it kind of doesn't matter which you do. It'll mostly come down to more personal preference at that point, because either way you're going to end up fighting them, so it's more if you want to get the drop on them or not. And you can figure out whether or not they've got a bunker comp pretty fast, because once you do the teleport over here, you just peep up and be like, oh, Orisa up there, and that's pretty much your giveaway. So, if it's a bunker, I find rushing the points better. If it's not a bunker, kind of doesn't matter, more just kind of like if you think you can fight it out with them. So, if you can't do a bunker, if you don't want to, or if you can't do a Symmetra, nobody wants to do Symmetra, whatever, for one reason or another, well, if it's a bunker, life's going to be hard for you, I'm afraid. It's really hard to get through here. One of the best things you can do at that point is, and this requires less coordination, but some coordination, this is a generally, like, decent thing to do against bunker comps on, like, any map. Get a Mei, get a Roadhog, get the Mei to wall under the Bastion, or whatever, it might just be a Torbjorn, you know, whatever, wall under the bad men, and then Roadhog hooks them off the wall. Now, the problem is you need to get the two people to coordinate. They don't need to coordinate super closely, but they do need to coordinate a little bit. But if it's like a Bastion, that guy's fucked. So, that's nice. That's a good one to go with. Other than that, you know, running through the trench is extremely difficult to do. A lot of people like to try and go, like, through here, and then, like, get up here, or, like, up here. Like, it's really a mess. Like, you're not really accomplishing much by doing this. You're kind of just hoping the problem doesn't become a huge problem by doing this, because you're not doing anything to, like, rectify the Bastion situation, or just the bunker situation, right? You're just trying to, like, skirt around it, like, hoping they don't really do anything to stop you, so I don't like doing that myself. I find that the best you can do at that point is come through here and try to rush around this way instead. Because then once you're over here, you're, like, completely safe. Like, the bunker can't see you without coming down to fight you, and then you can get up here, and you can try and get up here and fight them. If you can't fight them, you can try and just, like, skirt past over this way, and this is just so much safer. Like, I don't understand why people want to do that over here, because this is just so much more exposed, right? You're almost never in cover the entire time you're doing this, right? It's a little easier to get going, because you can come through here and, hey, you're in the cafe. This is nice and safe, as long as they don't come and stop you. Look, they've got pastries. It's wonderful. But then, oh, fuck me. Oh, Jesus Christ. You're never in cover again until you get to the point, right? You can, like, and then, like, you can go, alright, well, what if I go, like, this, right? They can't see me, as long as they don't come to the edge. And then I'm on the point. Great. I don't like that. I like going this way a lot more. Like, you're just so much cover. Like, you can do the same thing where you can, like, skirt around the Bastion and hope it's not a problem. But, like, look how much more in cover you are the entire time that you're doing it. And then you get over here, and, like, this is actually a pretty good place to stage an attack from, because of all this cover and this large health kit you can work with as well. So, and you almost, like, don't have to fight to get here. Like, as long as you can get through that part, this is the next most scary part, getting through here. But it's still, like, pretty covered. A bunker isn't gonna wanna come down here and fight you. You can, like, sit here and try to, like, fight it out, kind of like, going left on Anubis' first attack. You can kind of, like, mirror that technique up here, trying to get them. Though this is less good to attack from than the, going left on Anubis' point A. But, you know, you can do a similar maneuver to try to get to the Bastion. Or you can just come all the way around here and try to attack from this room. You've got a lot of cover to work with. You can just kind of, like, poke and prod at them from over here, or if they're over here, you know, you can still poke and prod from here. Just come on the point, start contesting it, now they have to come and fight me, right? So if you can't do the Symmetra is what I really recommend. But if you can't do that, go this way. It's so much safer and so much easier to get to the attackers from. It's just getting the initial, like, getting through the choke point that's hard. So if you've got a Mei, she can, like, put a wall up there to, like, cover you a little bit. If you got a Lucio, you can, like, speed boost round, you know? Anything like that'll help you, but otherwise you can just get Reinhardt and just try and, like, muscle through quickly, and you can probably get over here. Like, his shield will break pretty much as you get over here, but then you're in cover once you get here, so they still have to come and fight you if they're going to capitalize on it. So that's what I recommend doing for point A. Symmetra, really recommended. Otherwise, go right, don't go left. Left's so hard to go that way, dude. So when you're attacking point B, you've got a lot of options. I basically never recommend going this way unless you're trying to steamroll from point A, right? Like they like staggered themselves really bad, you caught people running back or something like that. Then like this is just the most direct route to try and get a snowball victory. But ever since they like changed the respawns for the defenders on these maps, it's a little bit harder to do that as well. But just coming up this way, dude, it's so fucking hard. Like you've got to go all this way to get up to them. It's so hard. Don't like doing that. I like to go right more than I like to go left, just because I like this angle more, basically. And it's also just like the tendency I've noticed that the defenders like to sit over here. Especially if they were running a bunker on point A. They are usually still running a bunker on point B, to be honest, even though I don't recommend it. It's what I find is usually happening. They like to sit here. So if you're going right, you're kind of covered against that initially. And it's harder to see you coming from over here unless they're like actively checking, as opposed to the left side where you're exposed a little bit sooner. And then you're on the bunker if they decided to go that way. But attacking this point, like, it's kind of similar to defending this point. You've got to, like, watch what the enemy team is doing and kind of react to it. And then, like, basically, don't keep just trying to go through the main entrance, dude. Like, it's really fucking hard. This is the way I see the most attackers fail to capture this point. It's just that they get their Reinhardt or their Orisa, and they, like, literally do nothing but try to go the main route. Like, just try something else, dude. Like, here's a good recommendation for attacking any map in the game. If the route you're going right now isn't working, try a different route. Now, not every map has a different route. As we talked about on point A, you've got the one choke point you're trying to go through. Once you get through the choke point, you've got different ways you can go. But you've only got one point of initial ingress, right? Here, you've got 3 different ways, and if you're feeling generous, you've got 2 different ways to get in from over on the left side. So you've got 3 or 4 ways in, depending on how generous you're feeling. I don't recommend this way. Like, I almost consider this way a non-option, but you've got a few different ways to go in. If going right ain't working for you, dude, you tried it a couple times, it ain't working, try going left. If that doesn't work, fuck it, try going up the middle. Try something different, dude. Like, mix it up. For, like, attacking the second checkpoint, there isn't really, like, a hero that I have a particular recommendation of over others, other than Sombra. Sombra is pretty good at attacking 2 CP maps in general, because you only need to win the one fight to win the point, pretty much, as long as it's a convincing win on the point. And Sombra is very good at facilitating that, because Emp's very strong. So Sombra is a good one to recommend just on 2 CP maps in general, because it only takes one fight to capture a point, and Sombra's good at facilitating that. Especially with the high tendency to be a bunker on this map, I find Sombra is good in general, just because of hacking and Emp being one of the more consistent ways to deal with a bunker. The trick is getting enough charge to use the Emp to begin with, and having a team that capitalizes on it, plus a Sombra that's going to use it at a sensible time. Other than that, I don't find there's any one hero that's better than that. A dive comp's pretty good as long as you're not playing into a bunker, just because it's easier to get from one place to another, because you often have to cover wide distances on this point, because if you come left and they rotate properly, well, suddenly you need to get to the right side of the map, right? And you can walk around, you can just try and, like, march on the point and contest it, but it's a lot easier if you can just dive to the other side of the point, right? So dive comps are good just because it's a point where you sometimes need to cover large distances to get to them, so having ways to cover large distances is good. Mei is pretty good even attacking, because you're still fighting on this big exposed point, which is always really good for Blizzard, so I still find Mei is pretty good. Just wide open points with not a lot of cover on them, they're usually pretty good for Mei. But other than that, there isn't, like, a hero I particularly recommend. It tends to be really hard for Reinhardt to get much stuff done on this map, just because it's really long distances to walk with your shield, like if you're going up that way, you know? And a lot of the time you're going to be running into a bunker, and Reinhardt's shield uptime doesn't compare to an Orisa. So if you're going with a Reinhardt, you've got to go, like, you've got to be really decisive in what you're doing once you get there. So I find Reinhardt is not usually great for this map, but Earth Shatter is still pretty good for this point, because once they're fighting you on the point, there's no cover here, so you only really have to play around the shields as far as the ult goes, but the map, I find, it doesn't work super well for Reinhardt. He's really slow, you're usually against a bunker, it's hard for Reinhardt. So dive comps, Orissa's going to be better than Reinhardt as far as shield tanks go, I find, attacking this map. Especially since you might end up having to play like a poking prodding game. Because it's not that unusual to go left or right and then end up where, like, you can't really just march onto the point, so you gotta play like a little bit of a poking prodding game, especially if you have like a slower comp. Like, you might have like an Ashe Hanzo or something like that as your DPS, so Orisa will just be better for playing the poking and prodding game, especially since you're probably against another Orisa defending this map. But it's pretty much like, you've just gotta be willing to try a different way, don't go up the center, it's really fucking hard unless you're trying to snowball. I recommend right, just a slightly better angle. If they're usually over here, that's just the tendency I've noticed, so going right will be better. And it's one of those things where if they do sit on the right side, the first push, if you can go this way, you'll be able to capitalize on it a little bit better if you went this way to begin with. Similar to the opening push having a Symmetra, this maneuver will never be more effective than on the first push, because once it's the second push, they'll be, like, expecting it, right? Or they should be, anyway. So, I recommend this way first. Try not to go middle. If this doesn't work, try something different, dude. You've got options. If you're playing any map, you're playing the attacking team, don't be afraid to try a different way, dude. There's no reason you have to sit in the one spot. You just have to keep trying the one doorway over and over again. Try a different way. Like, they gave you different paths to take for a reason. Take advantage of them. Don't just keep going through the one way when it's not working. So many times I've seen the attacking team just march up the main doorway over and over again. Don't do that. It's really hard. It's really hard. Especially when if they've got a Mei. How many times? How many times have you walked through this doorway and Reinhardt's just gotten killed because he got walled off? Happens all the time. So, those are my recommendations for Paris. That's Paris. It's a pretty simple map overall, to be honest with you. I don't find there's a great variety of strategies used on this map. You know, it's possible you can do some really cool stuff if you've got, like, really good coordination. Like, if you've got, like, a Hammond, Diva, Pharah, Genji, Mercy, Lucio, you know, it's possible you could get the whole team to go over, you know, it's possible you could get the whole team to go over this way and, like, maybe rush on the point before they even know what the fuck. But at that point, we're talking, like, massive 6-person coordination, right? Which is... I make all of my videos assuming you're playing by yourself in solo queue. So, like, that's what you can expect to see on this map. That's what I recommend you do on this map, both as the attacking and defending team. And, you know, it's not a super complicated map, but the 2CP maps usually aren't, but that doesn't make them any more fun, dude. So, thank you very much for watching. If you did, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to answer. If you haven't already, you can join our Discord and ask questions more directly and have a conversation about them, or just shitpost with us. I've started streaming on Twitch Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, 8 p.m. EST till midnight EST. There's a link to the channel in the description, and if you managed to make it all the way through the video and somehow still enjoyed it, please like the video and subscribe for more content of middling quality in the future. And I hope you found the video helpful.